Hey, this is Eric Poole, editor of Guns and Ammo. This is the Buzz podcast, and today we've got Mark Fingar, photographer extraordinaire. And if you read Guns and Ammo, you've certainly seen his artwork. He's got an interesting background as well, but we'll let him divulge what he wants to of it. He's a man of mystery. And another man of mystery, we've got Tom Beckstrand, proudly wearing, flying the Army colors and his little Special Forces stuff in the background. I dig it.
Gotta have something back there.
The subject of today's conversation, we're going to look back in 2024, rifles in retrospect. And Tom, you've tested, evaluated a lot of those firearms. Mark has shot photography of the majority of those rifles, but is also very familiar. And both of you guys are rifle nuts beyond what you do. You shoot even beyond the assignments that I make for Guns and Ammo magazine. So let's talk a little bit about guns and where I want to start. I've got a list here. And where I'd like to start here is with the Guns and Ammo Rifle of the Year Award. It was a little bit of a surprise for a lot of people. You know, it's not one of those mainstream brands that you might expect. It was Bill Wilson's Wilson Combat and his purchase of Melvin Forbes, who passed away recently as well, and the NULA Model 2020S. Tom, you were there for the voting, of course, out at Roundtable in Grand Junction, Colorado. Can you tell us a little bit about the conversations that went down and how we all kind of came to vote for that rifle?
Sure. Well, it's, a highly original work, as you mentioned, from Melvin Forbes. And it's not like a Remington 700 footprint and a custom action in that way. I mean, it is sized to be ultralight. So the receiver, the bolt body, everything was built around, let's make this as small and light as we possibly can while still making it accurate. And, Melvin Forbes did a lot of that was his baby. He designed it. But the problem, the challenge that he faced was the production behind it. It was, I think Max, it was him and two others that were building those rifles. And so there was never very many of them, long wait time associated with it. And then here comes Bill Wilson, who is the quintessential gun guy. I mean, he loves them all. I mean, he's known for his 1911s, but he loves and AR-15s and now the Model 20 and 20S. And so what Bill Wilson, I talked to him about it, and he said, we just wanted to take that design and basically put it into production. And I've been out to Wilson Combat several times, and every year that factory gets bigger and bigger. And, sometimes you'll hear the rumor that, well, Wilson's not really making parts. He designs things and then has other people make them. Oh no, he makes all of those things. He makes the barrels, he makes the receivers, he makes the bolts, the stocks he sources. But that's also not uncommon. But so it was just a kind of a legendary rifle that had been harder to find than hen's teeth, and it was really expensive. And then here comes Bill Wilson, who honors all of those original design concepts. He's doesn't have an accountant looking over his shoulder saying, hey, you could save a few pennies here, save a few pennies there. He's like, we are going to make the best version of this rifle that can possibly be made, and he did it.
Was it hard for you to cast your vote for that Wilson as rifle?
No.
I mean, there was a lot of rifles introduced there. We had the Wesson Model 1854, also another and a fresh take on the lever gun. But the Wilson, hands down, was your favorite?
Yeah, for all of those reasons. The history, the legacy, making it accessible to riflemen. And it's, Wilson Combat quality. I mean, it's everything about that thing is just done so right.
What kind of accuracy did you see out of it at the range?
I want to say it's like 3 shots between half and 3/4. We were shooting 308, which that's good. I think you'll get better accuracy with factory ammo and factory guns with the 6.5 Creed. And also it's hard for light rifles. It's not just when you get to really light contours, barrels move around a little bit more. So you're never going to get the same accuracy. If you're shooting like a barrel looks like a truck axle and a really lightly contoured barrel, it's going to be hard to get the same size groups out of those two because those skinny barrels heat fast. But great accuracy out of that thing, and the trigger's exceptional. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's like everything was done right. For me, like the story was the receiver, the bolt, because that's all original work. It's not a Remington 700 clone. That is like you start from scratch when you're building stuff like that.
Mark, you got any comments on it?
That was shot in-house up there in Peoria, wasn't it?
In terms of the photography and stuff?
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
We did have some of that. I thought you had your hands on a sample, though.
No, I didn't get to actually touch one. I've seen it. I've seen it online, of course, in Tom's article. And everything that Wilson touches is magic. You know, those guys they're gun nuts. They're engineers that shoot. They have a long history of putting things together that make sense, and they know machining. They know how to put cuts in the metal, and boy, they do a good job. Everything I've touched that has the Wilson name on it is excellent.
All right, so the next topic I have here, looking back, Ruger had its 75th anniversary, and it seemed like every month or every other month they were rolling out a new product, to really pay tribute to that history of Bill Ruger. But, it's been more than 20 years since Bill Ruger passed away, and Ruger is making products that Bill couldn't have imagined. And they're doing some really interesting things. So really kind of excited to see where Ruger goes with it. It's not just a company that makes number ones and Mini 14s. Although, hey, Tom, did you happen to see that A-Team looking Mini 14 with the side folder stock that came out this year?
I did. And, anybody that grew up in the 80s is, we all want one. Just because, I mean, the A-Team, yeah, it's awesome.
Well, so we covered the 75th anniversary in the September issue of Guns and Ammo, September 2024. But some of the other things that we've evaluated, I have a list right here in front of me. The LC carbine in 10 millimeter and 45, the American Gen 2 rifle, which was a proof house in the August issue. And of course, there's still, it seems like it's news to some people that Ruger owns Marlin, and Marlin has its own launches. Tell me a little bit about what you think in retrospect with what Ruger's doing.
I think that Ruger American Gen 2 is, I think that rifle is kind of the all-American rifle. And there's a lot of people that would be like, well, Tom, that's the Remington 700. Design-wise, and this is going to start a fight, but that's okay. Design-wise, I think that Ruger American is a better receiver. It does not obviously have the huge aftermarket support and the acceptance, and the reason why is because both of them are built from a round tube. Excuse me. But that Ruger American is a really thick tube, which means when you tap it for action screws, you get substantially more action screw engagement to receiver. And that is a really important principle of making a rifle shoot well. And so, like, if you want to bolt it into a chassis, you're going to get better results. If you don't bed anything, you're just going to torque it down and go shooting. You're going to get better results, more consistent results with that Ruger American than you 700, purely based off of action screw engagement, meaning that barreled action can't move around as much. And then the other, it's a double whammy. The Ruger American also has two angular flats with two massive recoil lugs that sit down in there. So you get a lot of lug engagement to the receiver. The Remington 700's got a recoil lug sandwich between the barrel and the receiver, and it's good. And then a lot of the aftermarkets will make them integral to the receiver, but that drives manufacturing costs up. But I think from a pure performance perspective and a design perspective, that Ruger American is superior. And the fact that it is so inexpensive, it's the reason why you can't buy a Ruger American that won't shoot under an inch. Like, I've never seen it. I don't care what it's chambered in. And, 15 years ago, if you had a rifle that was sub MOA, I mean, that thing slept on its own pillow at night. That was a big deal. And now, like, hey, man, head down to a big box store, grab a Ruger American, and you're good to go.
So, you're talking a lot about the Ruger American Gen 2. Mark, you're also kind of one of our insiders with what's going on inside the gun store. You're visiting your FFL almost daily, picking up guns and talking to the guys working the gun counter. In the budget market, we have a lot of Gen 2 versions or updates to existing bolt action designs, including the Savage Access 2 and the Mossberg Patriots. What kind of trends do you see in what, for lack of better terms, I'll call this budget rifle category?
Well, it's a good point. Right now with the economy, people just don't have the available money. They just go out and spend $2,000, $3,000 on what, like Tom and I and you would call a higher end premium rifle. So the Ruger American, I think they hit a home run. It's very popular in the gun shops. When I go on travel, I always stop at gun shops. I always ask them what's selling, what's the activity, and they've done a really, really good job at that. And they haven't cut on their manufacturing either. The quality is there. Having been down Moyton, walked through their plant, looked at their lever actions, just amazing what they're doing. They absolutely cut no corners on anything. But the neat thing I'm also seeing Ruger doing that is really appealing, like the 22 ARC came out this year. The American 2 is available in 22 ARC. It's one of the few rifles, right, Tom, that has adopted that cartridge already. I'm one of the early adopters of it. I bought all the dies and everything, started reloading for it, and now it's hard to find barrels or rifles in it. So kudos to them for embracing that and getting out in front of it. But overall, Ruger's an American company, and it's pretty awesome to be able to say my first gun was a 1022 back in 1978. My second gun was a stainless Mini 14. I still have both of those guns. They shoot extremely well after all these years, and seeing them change over the years, and then seeing them make some mistakes, to be honest with you. And then they came back, and they came back really strong. And I think Ruger right now is a stronger company than they've ever been as far as choices and quality. So good for them. It's really great to see them turning 75, and it was really fun doing that photo shoot. And with those three guns, it was challenging staging all that stuff and lighting it. Anybody who's a photographer could tell you anything that's silver and black and shiny, and then you have matte finish and you have wood tones. It was challenging to make sure I did them well, because I'm proud of them, proud to be an American, being part of it. So,
well, and again, if you want to see Mark's photos there, you got to check out the September issue. Brad Fitzpatrick actually authored the anniversary story for us in that issue. But speaking of 75th anniversary, HK also had a 75th anniversary. I don't know that they really rolled it out in big fashion like Ruger actually did, but they did come out with a few rifles, mostly in unique and limited edition patterns on the MR762 platform. Tom, do you have any experience with the MR762, and what do you think about them? And those patterns are the Flecktarn and the Tropentarn, which are very Teutonic inspired patterns from those military uniforms.
Yeah, so the MR762, I'm about 90% certain that's in rifles issued to the United States military.
Right, the MR27.
Correct, and so when HK started making those, the 416 and the MR, I guess the civilian version is the MR.
Correct.
On the civilian version of that, but it started with both of those started as military projects, and so the hit that HK will usually take is, well, they're heavy. Hey, if you're going to put a boatload of rounds through, and it's going to be issued to someone who shoots for a living, it's going to have to be heavy just because of heat and durability over the long term. But they shoot And one thing about HK is the engineering is always going to be exquisite. Like, they won't rush anything to market. They're going to take their time, and when it comes out, it's very well done. And so, you know, I've shot the 416 a little bit and MR 762, and frankly, both rifles impressed me. You know, the 416 was in service with the special operations for 20 some years, in units that shoot a lot, and so impressive.
Well, and even the Marines adopted the platform as the infantry automatic rifle, or IAR. And
Right.
like I said, in terms of weight, you know, you do want a little bit of weight when you're shooting, you know, 7.2 in a full auto fashion. So,
Right. And I think, did they adopt a full auto 5.56 version as like a substitute
Like
for a saw? Yeah.
Yes.
Well, and the Marines are notorious for being, you know, kind and gentle to their gear. So, you know, the fact they've stayed in service this long is, again, another testament to the durability of that rifle.
Well, thanks for not making another crayon joke.
I mean, the Marines make it easy, right? No,
All right.
Hey, for the record, the Marine Corps is an impressive organization. Just as an Army guy, like, it's ingrained in my DNA to talk smack. So, no hard feelings.
All right. So the other thing that's been trending this year, getting away from the anniversaries, but there seems to be a ton of lever actions being introduced. From the rimfire, we have the Winchester Ranger, for example, but then you've got a 44 caliber Winchester model 1854. I'm sorry, a Smith Wesson model 1854, and Smith Wesson's already starting to launch variations of it with wood stocks, and you know, Marlin's got a dark series, and of course Henry is continuing to launch variations of its lever actions. Why the interest in lever actions, Tom? And speak, if you will, a little bit to the defensive nature, because I'm even hearing guys carrying these as truck guns, if you will, you know, when they go out and about on it.
Right. So part of the reason is lever guns are cool. But there's a lot more to it than that. So lever guns are kind of making a resurgence. But, you know, from a legal perspective, there's a lot of states in the country where AR-15s, you know, the prison states, where you can't have an AR-15. And so the next best thing is a lever gun. Why? Because they hold a lot of rounds and you can cycle them quickly. And one of my favorite things about a lever gun, and this is another reason why they're popular, is they suppress well. You can get rapid follow-up shots, but your action stays closed so that all the gas goes through the suppressor. And then the aftermarket's increased. You know, you've got fore ends that allow you to do, you know, if you want to mount a weapon light, like things to make it a legitimate self-defense rifle, you can do those things.
And even optics are more familiar now.
You can mount optics, yes. And you're seeing, you know, normally, like, you slap a pick rail on the top of your lever gun and then put a mini red dot up there, like, okay, but that stock was designed for iron, so you're gonna have to kind of pick your head up. But you're seeing stock designs now that allow you to, you know, add comb height so that you can have a good connection between your head and the rifle, and you'll see through your optics. And so, yeah, you know, it's all of those reasons why. I mean, if you look, you know, culturally, you're seeing a lot of Western TV shows and everything else, and I think kind of like one of the movies that kind of kicked off the cult of the lever gun again was Wind River, that old Jeremy Renner, it's like 5 or 6 years old, but yeah, it's just culturally you see more Westerns, and so you see people more interested in what you see on TV movie.
Right. Hey, Mark, you know, at the gun store, if you will, where are lever guns going? What are people asking for? You know, we're starting to see like Bond Arms and POF come up with pistol calibers. Are we ever going to see a 10 millimeter lever action in the coming future? Is there enough demand at the consumer level for it?
I don't know. I think when people steer to a lever gun, they're looking for a tradition. You know, the 30-30s, 45-70s are really hot right now. You know, Tom didn't mention this, but one of the things that brought lever guns back to the forefront was Hollywood with Jurassic World, when he was running around shooting at T-Rex with the 45-70 the Marlin, everybody fell in love with them again. And then with all these banned states, people started looking at them like, hey, I can get that and I could shoot it at the range. I absolutely love them. But yeah, there's a want and need. Eric, I think some of those people, they might be going towards like the rimfire avenue. But, you know, I think if they had rimfire in any caliber, it would sell. But I don't know how big that market might be. It's kind of like when people go into the gun shop, they pull down a lever action, they kind of expect it to be in a traditional caliber, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I'm gonna one thing I'll disagree slightly with is I think the first company to come out with a lever gun in 9mm is gonna have to fight a huge backlog. Think about it. You can fit about 20 of them in there. You can suppress it. And you know that would be a really excellent self-defense gun. And ammo's cheap, and 9mm is everywhere. So I think I agree. There's a lot of tradition connected to lever guns, but the first lever gun in 9mm that's reliable and great is gonna sell. I'll buy one.
And speaking to that, why 9mm hasn't arrived yet? You've got the challenge with developing an extractor claw bolt that will handle and reliably feed and cycle the 9mm case design. So that's the big challenge out there. Who do you think, if you had a bet, who would you bet on putting it out there first?
Marlin. That'd be my bet. Yeah.
Mark?
Ruger's got Ruger Marlin. They've got a ton of engineers. They got a ton of manufacturing know-how, and they know how to get guns out the door. I think they'll do it first.
I'm going to go out on a limb. 9mm lever gun. It's going to be Kel-Tec. 2025 right, is going to be the year of surprises. It's going to be Kel-Tec.
Yeah,
right on.
No, maybe. And I would be surprised to see really Henry break new mold. You know, they're one of the most popular lever gun manufacturers in the industry. You commercials on mainstream. They love shocking the industry. I mean, every year they're introducing ground up design. It just
think of their Homesteader and how popular that's been for them, and that would be a good crossover to customers that love that and still want to have a lever action made by Henry. You might be right.
Absolutely. All right, jumping on the next topic, real quick. I'm going to bring it back to Tom because Tom. Every time I try to reach you, it seems like you're always getting ready for a trip or you're on a trip. You've been to quite a few places this year, but I'm going to talk about 3 of them. First off, you went to Australia, of all places, to evaluate a rifle, a Hammerli 22. Can you tell us a little bit about the rifle, what you did there, and what your experience was like? Typically, Australia doesn't sound like a gun-friendly place.
Yeah, well, I mean, no one was more surprised than I was that the opportunity came up to go hunt in Australia, and it was a rabbit hunt, which makes sense for a rimfire rifle. It was Hammerli's Force B1, chambered in 22 long rifle and 22 Magnum, and you know, it takes 10-22 pattern mags, a lot of commonality between the two, same triggers, but it's a straight pull, bolt action rifle, and it was and with a QD barrel system that's really slick, so you can bounce back and forth. Caliber change with it is awesome. But yeah, there was, you know, a well-meaning Englishman, I'm sure, released cottontail rabbits sometime in the 1800s, and now there's a bajillion of the things running all over the place, tearing it up. So like Australia has a pretty serious rabbit problem. And yeah, spent several days doing it, shot a lot of 22 long rifle and a lot of 22 mag. And I think that's probably like one of my favorite really cool guns, because you're leveraging the 1022 aftermarket, so mags, triggers, all that. It's a really fast gun. You can shoot it almost as fast as a semi-auto, and yet it suppresses because you can leave the action closed. You can't run it manually fast enough to get any gas out the ejection port, so it's super duper quiet. So pest control for just about everybody. You know, you always want to be polite with the neighbors. And so if you got problems with pests around the house, you know, where it's legal to shoot a gun close to your house, like, man, that thing's hard to beat.
All right, Tom, another place you went was you've gone back to Africa. You've been there before, but this time you did Aaron Davidson, owner of Gunworks. What were you doing over there? And tell us a little bit about what that experience was like.
So I was over Plains game hunt with Aaron. We've been talking about it for years, and this was the year that we did it. New cartridge, it'll be out next year. So, you know, Gunworks is man, they're just a really impressive company. They, you know, Aaron and I mean, you spend a couple of days on a rock outcropping glassing for kudu. You got time to talk about everything. And we did. We talked rifle stocks. You always got the personal stuff. But we're both a couple of rifle nerds, and I will tell you that dude is brilliant, and there is no length to which he will not go to improve a rifle. And so it was fascinating for the hunt was amazing. You know, Plains game hunt, I think, is probably one of the best kept secrets. You could go on a trophy elk hunt in the U.S., and you're going to spend a lot of money, and you're going to hopefully get a nice elk. You can take the same amount of money or even a little bit less, go to Africa and hunt 5 or 6 animals in a week, and excellent accommodations. And I went with John X Safari, like, holy cow. And you think, oh, you know, Gunworks is a premium company, products are expensive. John X Safari is priced mid-pack, but that is every bit as premium as you'll find anywhere. I mean, Aaron's been there 14 times because that's how good of an outfitter and an experience it is. So John X is really good. But yeah, new cartridge, and you know, we'll know more about that here next month. But phenomenal, you know, shot kudu, really nice kudu, springbuck, gemsbuck, zebra, and nyala.
Sure.
Just trying not to smoke the budget too hard.
Now, you've not only shot the Nexus rifle, which was an introduction last year, but you've also shot the Magnus, and you tested the Skull as well. And the Skull is
tested the Skull, shot the Climber, and I think it's called the MTX. Yep. So just about all of the Gunworks guns. And on the hunt, Aaron was like, hey, you know, careful what you do with pictures of this thing, but the new product, it'll be a SHOT Show next month. So yeah, I'm familiar with just about the entire Gunworks product line, and very fortunate.
Gunworks has been around for a while, but they've really been cleverly introducing new products and filling those gaps. And not only that, but they're also into the Revic optics, which we'll save a lot of that for another episode in the future. Right. But
one thing I would like to say about Gunworks is a lot of times people online will be like, oh, you can build a rifle that does the same thing, you know, for less. No, you can't. Just for example, like the stock technology, like how they make those stocks is unique to Gunworks, because Aaron is relentless, and he's like, and you know, we don't have the time to get into it here, but how you put those components together so that they stay together, but you make it light, he's got an entirely unique process that only he does. And then there's features that he comes out with that you'll see in a year or 2 years later with other stock manufacturers. So Gunworks is really like a skunk works for rifle nerds. And yeah, I'm a big fan of their products because there's a lot of original work done there that you don't see anywhere else, and you can't get it anywhere else.
All right, the last trip I'm going to bring up really is also about a Winchester bear hunt in North Carolina. It didn't go great last year, but you're about to leave for redemption, if you will. And Brad Fitzpatrick, who is also I was going to have on this particular show, couldn't be on the show because he's driving there from Ohio right now. So he's on the road. What are you hunting with Winchester, and what do you expect to get out of it?
So, you know, last year I show up in camp and I got a 400 Legend, and, you know, talking to my guide, and he's like, hey, you know, I'm a little recoil shy. I thought this was hilarious. He's like, yeah, you know, I'm a little recoil shy. And I'm like, well, you know, what's your rifle chambered in? And he goes, 338 Win Mag. Okay. The guys that aren't recoil shy are rolling with 375 H&Hs, and this is North Carolina, and like never in my life did I expect to see so much artillery. But they're not doing it for like it's a strongman contest. It's just the nature of the hunt down there. The black bears get big, and they're like, when you get a shot on one, we kind of need it to die right where it's shot. There's kind of a craze in the rifle community right now of, hey, let's use smaller and smaller cartridges for bigger and bigger animals, which I can support to a degree. I've done some of that myself, and it's great. But there's a time where you just need a big gun, and so this one I'm rolling with 300 Win Mag. It's the AccuBond LR bullet, and so that's what I got for this trip, and fingers crossed. It's just
what rifle are you using?
XPR.
Got it. Which they make in a buku number of variations.
Oh yeah, threaded muzzle, so I'll throw a suppressor on the end just because I like to keep it civilized. But yeah, and that's as light as I ever want a 300 Win Mag. No one enjoys shooting a 6-pound 300 Win Mag. Like,
right.
If I'm going to carry it up a mountain, you're still going to be miserable shooting it. So,
all right, guys, I'm going to do a little bit of rapid fire here, real quick. Tell me in a couple words what you think about the following guns. Mark, we'll hit you first. Taurus Expedition, new this year in 308, bolt action rifle. What do you think when you heard Taurus was going to make a bolt gun?
That's why I picked them for the 9mm lever action. It's very interesting. It's lightweight. It's a neat gun. Good for them. Been to their facility. They know how to manufacture stuff. Don't discount Taurus. They're a good company.
Tom, bolt
far strong.
Browning. I'm sorry. I'm going to hit you with a different gun. Browning X Bolt 2.
Didn't think the X-Bolt could get any better, and then they did it. You see improvements on the stock, and while maintaining all of the reasons why we love X-Bolts. Those things are handled beautifully. They're beautiful rifles. They're priced well, and now you got more features than you did before.
One of my favorite features on there is that little button that allows you to work the bolt with it on safe. Yeah. So I like being able to clear the chamber with the safety engaged. That's a really nice feature. It doesn't qualify for that budget gun category, but it's an improved generation. It's not an expensive rifle either. It's right in that mid range and available with a whole bunch of different stock varieties. It's fun to see what both Browning and Winchester are doing with the XPR and the X-Bolt series. All right. The next one I've got, Mark, Smith & Wesson Response.
Oh, love the Response. I'm a 2.0 owner and user, so seeing a short carbine that uses the same grip modules, uses the same mags, and same familiarity, you've got a lot of muscle memory that you can carry over from one to the other. I actually brought that carbine up in a little class I gave on survival go bags. If you're going to pick a firearm to assemble with all that, that might be a good solution for a carbine to go along with a pistol because of the commonality. Love it. They did a really good job with the Response.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of interesting and fun things happen as Smith & Wesson now operates also out of Maryville, Tennessee. That was a great move for them. So I'm pretty encouraged with what's going to be coming from Smith & Wesson. Plus, they have a state-of-the-art factory as well. Yep. All right, last one, Springfield Armory Boundary, Tom.
What stands out for that rifle is, features, great. The stock's great. It's got some bottom metal. Love the design of the receiver and everything that they did there. When carbon fiber barrel and best 3-shot group. It's a hunting rifle. Everybody wants to argue over group sizes. Hunting barrels for me are getting 3 shots because then they get hot. They're just lightly contoured. But the best 3-shot group is like 0.2, 0.3 inches. And the thing was shooting so well, I was like, well, Daddy's got to know. Like, I got to beat this thing a little bit and see how it holds up. So I did a 10-shot group with that same load that came in at 0.9 inches. So when you get a 10-shot group out of a hunting rifle with 0.9 inches, like, get out a pen and paper and take some notes because that's a big deal. And
so what chambering was that?
What's that?
What chambering was that?
Pretty sure it was 6.5. I guess 6.5 Creed. Which
Yeah, we had
is a great
6.5 Creed on
cartridge.
that.
Yeah. And so, you know, and the one thing about Springfield Armory is they know how to get guns out the door, and they know how to make their guns consistent. So that's not like everybody's like, oh, you know, they cherry picked one. No. Springfield Armory's big, like it's chaos, right? Hey, you send a gun to Guns and Ammo. They just run out, grab one, boom, here you go. And holy cow, that thing shot. Like I can still remember it pretty clearly.
Awesome. All right, guys, that's going to wrap it up. Thank you for joining us today. Appreciate your first appearance on Guns and Ammo Buzz. Let's do it again. We'll cover optics, ammo, and all the other good stuff in the future.
Okay. Awesome.
Thank you, Eric.